This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class software like PDF Pen for Mac, PDF Pen Pro for Mac, PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad, PDF Pen Scan Plus for iPhone and iPad, Text Expander for Mac, and Text Expander for iPhone and iPad. Learn more about all their great products at smilesoftware.com. And by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, the road to Macstock stretches out before us. We've still got a lot of speakers and a lot of folks to go, so that's why we're picking them off a little bit early this year. We want you to get to know the people that are going to be speaking at Macstock and have an idea of what they're going to be talking about, so you can get as excited about it as I am. Macstock is in Woodstock, Illinois, July 15th and 16th of this year, and please join us. And I want you to join me. I want you to join our guest today, Mr. Mike Schmitz. Mike, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Thanks, Chuck. Glad to be here.
Yeah, this will be your second year, speaking at Macstock. Last year, you tried to make us all a little more efficient. I think some of it rubbed off. I'm still working on some of it. But this year, I know what you've told me what you're going to tackle, and it's something that I think everybody can identify with.
Yeah, so the name of my talk is Using Your Mac to Escape Your Email. And really the idea behind this talk came from when I was building out a product for agent efficiency called Escape Your Email, where we were interviewing our customers and about the specific email problems that they were having, and then we basically handcrafted solutions for them to solve those specific problems. A lot of the solutions that we crafted, everybody on the team uses Macs, and so didn't even really think twice about some of the things that we were doing, and then we would present them to people, and then they'd tell us, well, that's great, but how do I do that on a PC? And we were just like, you can't do that on a PC? What's wrong with that? Like, what? how is it missing this feature? Like, this should be pretty basic. And so that just kind of opened my eyes to the fact that I'm all in on the Apple ecosystem, but that's one of the reasons why they've thought through all these little things, and there's a lot of little connections that happen in the Mac OS system and iOS systems that we tend to take for granted from a productivity standpoint specifically. Like if you really dig into automation and things like that, there's a lot of stuff that you can do on a Mac that our PC brethren sadly don't have access to.
Now, you've got to know that that's like music to my ears, because we love to think that the Mac is a superior device, and that we've made the right choice, or at least a better choice. But I want to back up just a second. You say that people told you what their problems were, and then you craft the solutions for them. Is that from a reader standpoint that somebody sent in a problem, or is this something you all do commercially?
What we did actually is we did a survey on our blog about some specific problems that people had with email. And they were just open-ended questions like, what's your biggest problem? How much time you spend in email a day? When's the last time you got inbox zero? That sort of thing. And we had something like 500 people, I think, fill out that survey. And we went through all the survey results, and we contacted roughly 100 people and asked if they would be willing to do basically a free private coaching session where we would first of all interview them about their problems. So that was a one-on-one call that happened, and that was about an hour. And we would dive deep into their problems, and then we would go back, craft the solutions, create the videos, and then do another follow-up coaching call with them and present the information. They could try it and see if it worked.
And then you release those videos to the public?
Yep. Then we packaged all of those videos along with some other videos that we kind of felt filled in the holes, and presented that as a video course essentially on how to escape your email. And really, people may think that, well, email, yeah, it's a nuisance, it's a thorn in my side maybe, but it's not really a problem. And we did a bunch of research before we even embarked on this journey about how big is this problem that we're trying to solve. Is it something that there was really something here that from a productivity standpoint, if we solve this could really be a game changer for people? Or is this just one of those things where it's like, well, we deal with it? But when we dug into it, what we found is that the average U.S. worker, according to the Huffington Post, spends 6.3 hours per day dealing with email. And there's 4.3 billion worldwide email accounts. There's 205 billion email messages sent every day, and a lot of them don't need to be sent. And it causes a lot of back and forth. And when you really dig into it and you think about it, you think about, is there a better way to do this? A lot of times, yeah, there is. And we just default to email as the de facto communication standard in a lot of teams and organizations. So what we did is we tried to figure out a way where you could spend less time in your email. We wanted to get it down to 30 minutes a day, and we think that's doable when you use the Mac specifically to put things in the appropriate containers. The key idea, and I'll dive into this obviously more in the talk, is that with every email message that comes in, you want to touch it once. You want to get it in your inbox. You want to identify where exactly this is supposed to go. Is it something that I need to take action on, but it's a bigger project and I can't do it right now? Well, the default for a lot of people is to just leave it in their inbox and hopefully they see it next time they open up their email client. But a better way to do that would be to send that to a task manager, because then you can assign a project, you can assign a context. It can notify you when you're in the place to actually take action on those things. And coming back to the Mac specifically, one of the things that we discovered is that if you can create in your task manager a link to that original message, which using the Mac, you have that message URL scheme. You can click on that link from your task manager. So you imagine you get the notification that says you have to do something. But everything that you need to do is right there, because you can just click it, goes straight to the message. You don't have to search through your inbox to find it. You can reply. You're done with the task. You check it off. Boom, you're on to the next thing. So little things like that from a Mac perspective make it a great tool for dealing with your email productively.
I am so tempted to ask you about 45 questions and keep us here for a couple hours, but I'm not going to. That's what the session is for. That's why we want people to come to Macstock. That said, I do have to ask this much. Is this something, especially since you said this is for Mac people, is this something that you need to be using Apple's mail program for, or can I use Gmail on my Mac or one of the other mail clients on my Mac to do this?
Yeah, well, you could definitely use Apple Mail. I personally don't like Apple Mail because I think that part of dealing with email effectively is using keyboard shortcuts. And the keyboard shortcuts on Apple Mail are more, I don't know, you have to do more finger gymnastics. To archive a message in Apple Mail, I think it's like Shift-Command-A. But to archive a message using any of the programs that use Gmail keyboard shortcuts, like I use MailMate, but Airmail is also really good, Postbox. You just hit the E key. And so if you can really wrap your head around some of those keyboard shortcuts, it really helps you fly through your email. But ultimately what it is it's a mindset approach, which you can apply to any email client. So if you're using Apple Mail for some specific reason, maybe you've got a plug-in with Apple Mail that you use that you kind of rely on from a business or even personal point of view, then a lot of the mindset stuff can still help you drastically reduce the amount of time that you spend in the email.
So this is more a technique-based approach as opposed to a software solution approach. So it's, or are third-party software solutions involved?
Well, you could definitely use third-party solutions, and I'm sure I'll share some of those in the talk. But really, what I'm doing is I'm condensing a big video course down to 20-minute sessions. So I'm really not going to dive in deep. I'll share some of the mindset stuff, and I'm happy to, if I end up doing a deep dive session, that's probably where we'll dive into a little bit more of that. But really what I want to do is I kind of want to give like the 80-20 of the system so people understand the different parts, and then talk about from a Mac perspective specifically, how do we leverage this easily. And there's a couple email clients that make that real easy. I mean, one of the great features of Apple Mail, not to completely throw it under the bus, is the VIP feature that it pioneered. And Airmail has that too. I mean, that's a big thing when it comes to email, is just taming those notifications. And a lot of people in a corporate setting, you tell them turn off your email notifications, and they have a mild panic attack because they're like, well, I need to know when those things happen. But you don't need to know when everything happens. If you really think about it, there's maybe a couple people in your life that when they send you an email, you need to know about it right away. So using a feature like VIP notifications can drastically reduce the amount of interruptions and distractions that you have on a daily basis.
Today's MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class software for the Mac and iOS. Find out about how their amazing utilities can make you more productive at smilesoftware.com. Today I want to give you some perspective on Text Expander from Smile, the utility that lets you type simple snippets of text that expand into whatever you need them to be. A simple 3-character snippet expands into today's date. A few more characters and I've got my email signature. A short abbreviation and I have the full bio of a frequent guest on MacVoices. Another short abbreviation and some of the standard contact information drops into a MacVoices post. Those are just a few of the ways I use Text Expander on my MacBook Pro with Touch Bar. But I can also use those same snippets on my MacBook and on my iMac. That's because you can sync your snippets through iCloud so they're available on all your Macs. You can even use your snippets on your iDevices, because Smile makes Text Expander for iPad and iPhone too. So no matter where you're doing what, Text Expander is there, just waiting for you to trigger your favorite snippets and be more productive. Not sure if text expansion is for you? Text Expander monitors what you're doing, notices those words and phrases that you use frequently, and makes suggestions on what can be done more effectively by being done with a snippet. When the feature was introduced, I was sure I was making good use of Text Expander, but some of its suggestions let me kick it up a notch. Is there a word you frequently misspell or miscapitalize? Text Expander can help. By making a snippet out of the incorrectly spelled word that triggers insertion of the correct version, you'll never make that mistake again. Text Expander can also share snippets to use across your organization's teams. Snippets to address frequently asked questions for sales or support issues help deliver a consistent, accurate message to your customers. Response times drop, communication improves, and everyone wins because you use Text Expander. You can try Text Expander right now by visiting smilesoftware.com. See just how easy it is to create new, useful snippets that make you more productive immediately. I use Text Expander multiple times every hour I'm at my Mac or my iDevices, and I'm betting you will too. That's Smile at smilesoftware.com, the makers of world-class software. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. Okay, so one tool that I know I use a lot is my iPhone. You know, if I have free time, at the very least, I try to go through and curate, get rid of some junk, while maybe waiting for an appointment to arrive or waiting in somebody's waiting room. Are these same techniques applicable if you're stepping off the Mac and over to the iPhone?
Because the email clients function a little bit differently. For example, there's a lot of different applications for the Mac that have that direct integration with other productivity apps, which that's the thing that I really like about handling email on my Mac. MailMate integrates with just about every productivity application you can think of. And that's one of the things that a lot of PC clients do not do. But when you talk about a mobile, the mobile form factor, I mean, right away you've got a small keyboard. So what we would generally recommend from an escape your email product standpoint is don't try to send a lot of email from your phone, but use your phone for triage. So the whole concept of triage goes back to the Napoleonic War, when they had all these wounded soldiers and they didn't have enough medical resources to take care of everyone, and so they had to identify who are the people who, if they got medical attention, are going to die, or if they didn't receive medical attention, are going to die anyway. The people who, if they didn't receive medical attention, are going to live anyway. And then where are the people that, if we did receive medical attention, that could be the difference. And so you take that approach to email. You've got the emails where it doesn't really matter if you respond right away. You've got the emails where it completely matters if you respond right away. And then there's the ones where, like, if you were to actually do something with this when it came in, this is going to be the difference. So you've got like the negative, you've got an email, like there's a negative outcome regardless of how quickly you respond to this, a positive outcome regardless of how quickly you respond to this, and then the ones where if I respond to this email right now, that could turn this situation from a negative to a positive, if that makes sense. And so that's where the iOS with the notifications, those are the types of emails, and only those types of emails that you want to respond to right away. But all the other ones, you use the swipe gestures to send those to the appropriate bucket. And there's two apps which I've found that allow you to do that. One of them is Airmail, and the other one is Dispatch. And I prefer Dispatch because the URLs that it sends, and this is getting a little bit nerdy, but it uses the standard URL schemes. So if you were to go on your Mac, for example, and look at an email message, it's got a message ID that tells it that this is the specific message that I want to reference. Airmail uses its own URL scheme. So instead of message : / it's Airmail : // which isn't a big deal if you're completely invested in Airmail because it's got a really great Mac client and an iOS client. But if you're using Airmail on iOS and you're using MailMate on your Mac, for example, then those URLs in your task manager are not going to work.
Makes sense. To wrap this up, because again, it's so easy to start digging in deep. Are the keyboard shortcuts one of the things, or is that one of the things that the PC folks can't do, or what is it that makes the Mac, in your opinion, capable of implementing some of these strategies that the PC just can't?
Sure. Well, the keyboard shortcuts are generally there. I mean, one of the applications that we recommend is Postbox, which has Gmail keyboard shortcut support, and that's actually available on both PC and Mac now. But what is missing when you switch to a PC is the direct integration to other productivity apps. It is a game changer when you get this mindset applied and you can look at a message and you can know right away, oh, this is going to take me a while to do, but it's a task. That's going to go to OmniFocus. Or you get something and you're like, oh, this is good information to have, but I can't do anything with this. That's a reference file. That's going to go to Evernote. And then with a keyboard shortcut, being able to just send those messages to those appropriate buckets and then archive that message and get it out of your inbox, that whole concept is kind of key to the email management philosophy that we teach at Asian Efficiency. And so you take away those integrations, and all of a sudden this became a lot harder.
Okay. So this is good because now the folks that are watching this have plenty of time to throw away their PCs, buy a Mac, and come to Macstock, and instead of waiting until afterwards, because everything you're saying makes perfect sense. It's just that some of us don't think about it. I guess the good news for me personally is that I don't spend over 6 hours a day in email, but I do spend way too much time in email. So I've got to think about some of this. I may not be able to wait. I may have to go take the course.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter the amount of time that you spend in there. It's really the fact that how you approach your email sometimes is you're your own worst enemy. So like we talk a lot in the course about the notifications. There's been a lot of research done that shows that when you get those notifications, those dings, it's a variable reward scenario that triggers a Pavlovian dog type response. It's automatic. Your brain releases this chemical called dopamine. It's a pleasure chemical. And it's the exact same pleasure, or it's the exact same chemical reaction that occurs when a drug addict takes a hit or an alcoholic takes a drink. Now, I always say not equating email with those two substance abuse problems, but from a physiological standpoint, we have to recognize what this is doing to us, because if you leave your email client open in the background, or you leave those notifications on your phone, or even now on your watch, then you have given someone else an open door to interrupt your day at any given time. And when people send emails, they don't think about what the other person on the end is doing. Like what are they in the middle of when they get this message? So it's up to you to control who can walk through that door at any given point, because when you get those distractions, when you get those notifications, let's say you're really focused, you're doing good, you're cranking on your big project, and you get that notification, even if you just go to look at it and jump back to your task right away, research has shown that it takes 25 up to 40 minutes to get back into what you were doing. 25 minutes to get refocused, an additional 15 minutes to really get into that state of flow if you were there. And most people don't view it that way. They view it as like, well, I just checked my email quick and now I'm back writing my report or whatever. But then 3 hours later, they're like, oh, I wonder why I can't make any progress on this paper that I have to write. It's because you're constantly jumping back and forth, and you're context switching every time that you do that, and your brain just can't keep up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for the multitasking approach to things, but there's also a lot to be said for that, in the zone kind of productivity thing, especially on longer term projects. So I'm right there with you. And yeah, a lot of what you're saying I can relate to, for better or worse. I see some of the bad habits and also some of the things that, for example, I know if I'm taking a cross country flight, I definitely don't buy the Wi-Fi because half the time it's not worth it. But more importantly, you find out just how much you can get done. And to talking about the dopamine thing, you get off that flight, you may be tired from flying, but you have this really great, boy, I got a lot done, and you feel good about it. So, yeah, lots of lessons here.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, the problem that we want to solve is we want people to be able to feel that way. Because when you're on the airplane, you're just like, well, I may as well be focused on this thing in front of me because I can't do anything about it anyways. But you can develop a system where you can kind of achieve that mental state like anytime that you want it. But the key is having that system where you know that everything that is coming in, it can handle all of that stuff. And you can very quickly, very efficiently get those things into the appropriate containers where you just have this ingrained and you can trust your system because you know that at the exact right time, my task manager is going to tell me what I need to do. As opposed to constantly going back to your inbox and scanning, the last 100 messages that are sitting at the top. And is there anything that I need to deal with right now? And once you flip that switch, it's really freeing in a sense because you don't have to worry about all the other things that people have thrown on your to-do list, so to speak. I say the email is a to-do list that anybody can write on. And, really what you want to do is you want to take control of your own to-do list. And so the way to do that ultimately is get a hold of your email.
One of the troubles with doing this series is that every time I talk to one of the presenters, I think that's got to be my favorite presentation. And then I talk to the next one, it's like, no, this has got to be. So right now, this is definitely my favorite presentation, but I think it's going to stay at the top because we all need productivity and we all interact with email one way or another, and so that's why I love this session. It's going to apply to so many folks. So thank you for giving us just a little look inside. I've got to go and examine some of my practices later today.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you have any email related questions, let me know.
Oh, be careful.
I've been living and breathing this stuff for the last 6 months. So,
well, when you're not here and when you're not preparing for Macstock, where can folks find you and follow you on social media or wherever?
On Twitter, I am at Bobblehead Joe. Also the host of a couple different podcasts. So the Productivity Show, which is the official Asian efficiency podcast. So if you really like nerding out about productivity topics and Mac and iOS tools and apps, then you may want to check that out. Another podcast I do is called Bookworm with Joe Bulig, who's also going to be there. He's another OmniFocus guy. And my personal site is MikeSchmitz.me, which has links to all the different things that I'm working on, although I don't update the blog part of that very often. One other thing I should mention, I guess, is I'm a regular contributor to Screencast Online. So if you remember there, you may have seen some of the workflow and GTD type videos that I've done. And that's actually a connection that I made at Macstock. First year I went, didn't present, but I sat next to Don McAllister. And so that's just my plug, I guess, to encourage everybody who's thinking about it to come to Macstock, because my wife came last year. She's not an Apple nerd, but she said that she really enjoyed it. She got a lot out of every single session, and just everybody is super welcoming, super friendly. It's very open and welcoming community, and I really have not found anything else like it, and it's what keeps me coming back.
Yeah. Your wife was so funny because she seemed to be surprised at just that whole thing, of, okay, now you're here, you're part of the family, and it's like, I don't know if I want to be part of the family.
Yeah, she's resisted the becoming a nerd, as she puts it, for a while, but I'm gonna get her.
Good. Well, I hope I'm really looking forward to seeing her again this year. So. All right. Well, Mike, thank you. We'll see you in Illinois in July. Can't wait.
Sounds good. Me either.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Again, we're on the road to Macstock. Please join us. Macstock2017.com is where you go to get all the information and to register. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mike and his wife and convincing her that she really is part of the family, and hopefully seeing you as well. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.